What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. This is our first video in the algebra series. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend watching our foundations videos because it just basically helps you prepare before you get into the algebra series, because it goes into important things like PEMDAS, algebraic expressions, fractions, all the fun stuff. Also, just an FYI, we post new lessons every Sundays and Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So, if you're taking algebra right now or you need a refresher on algebra, you should definitely subscribe so you can get updated whenever we post new content. Okay, let's get into it. Linear functions. So there's two main things that I want to talk about for linear functions. The first one is I'm going to talk about graphing linear functions, and I'm going to talk about finding the equation of a linear function. So we want to first graph linear functions, and then after we're done with graphing it, we want to talk about how you find the equation of a linear function, right? So let's start with graphing linear functions. So the graph of a linear function, the linear kind of gives it away, is a straight line which could have a positive slope or it could have a negative slope, but it's always a straight line. So before we get into graphing it, let's talk about three things that we need in order to even be able to graph a linear function. So we need to know the slope, we need to know x-intercept, and we need to know y-intercepts. So we need to understand intercepts, and then we need to, I should just spell the full thing. We need to understand intercept, and we need to understand slope. So let's first start with intercepts. So let me draw some random graph. Let's draw some random graph. Let's call this point -2, and let's call this point 3. Okay, so the way intercept works is the point that the line intersects your plane. So if we look at this line, at what point is this line intersecting my x-axis? This is x and this is y. The point where it intersects your x-axis is called your x-intercept, and the point where it intersects your y-axis is called your y-intercept. So this line, at what point does it intersect my x-axis, which is the horizontal axis? It intersects it right here, so this is my x-intercept. Same question, at what point does this line intersect my y-axis? It intersects it right here, so that's my y-intercept. And then you were to put it in coordinate form. When we do coordinate form, it's always x comma y. So if I go ahead and put this in coordinate form, or ordered pair, it's going to be x first and then y. So for this, what is the x value here? It's -2, and the y value is 0. Same thing here. What is my x value at my y-intercept? It's 0. And my x and my y value at my y-intercept is 3. X value at y-intercept is 0, and y value at x-intercept is 0. So that's a very interesting thing to note because it's very important. So at your x-intercept, y is equal to 0, and at your y-intercept, x is equal to 0. Now that we know this, we essentially can graph our linear functions. Say we have another equation, and then let me give you another example. So if we have this, let's say this is -3, and let's say this is 2. The x-intercept is the point where it intersects the x-axis, which is right here. If I put it in coordinate form, which is always x and then y, the x value here is 2 and my y value is 0. My y-intercept also is the point where it intersects the y-axis, so my x value here is 0 and my y value here is -3. So I hope that makes x-intercept and y-intercept clear. So the next thing that we wanted to talk about is slope. Now your slope is just your rise over your run, or you can think about it as your change in y over change in x. So how does y vary as x varies? If your function or your line is increasing as x increases, then it's a positive slope. But if it's decreasing as x increases, then it's a negative slope. So my question here is, as x increases, which is this direction, so as I go this way, is this increasing or is it decreasing? As I go this way, we were at -3 here, but now here we're at positive value. Right here we're at a positive value. So am I increasing as I'm going in this direction, or is my graph decreasing? Hopefully we can all see that it's increasing as I go this way. So then I have a positive slope for this specific line. We can also find what the slope is by using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's go back to the problem we solved earlier. So for this problem, as I go in this direction, is my line increasing or is it decreasing? It's increasing, although we can both see that, or we can all see that. So if it's increasing, then we know that our slope is positive, right? Okay, now we've talked about a lot of interesting things, so let's graph it. Let's graph some linear equation that looks like this. 3x plus 3y equals, I probably shouldn't have done 5. Can't think of numbers. 3x plus 3y equals 5. Let me make this a different number so it's a bit interesting. So let's make this 2y. 3x plus 2y equals 5, and I want to graph it. The only thing really that you need to do in order to be able to graph it is to find your x-intercept and your y-intercept. Once you have both of this, you can plug them, you can plot them on your plane and then connect it. We said earlier that at x-intercept, my y is equal to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and solve for this, and it's going to be 3x plus 2. I'm not going to write y because y is 0. Now 3x is 2 times 0 is 0, so it's just equal to 5. So my x is 5 over 3, which is, I believe, 1.67, around that area. And now at my y-intercept, my x is equal to 0, right? So I'm going to write this. I'm not going to write x because instead of x, I'm writing 0. So this is just 0, so we don't need to do that. So 2y is equal to 5, and then I divide both sides by 2. So y is 5 over 2, which should be approximately 2.5 or thereabouts. Okay, now let me put it in coordinate form. In coordinate form, it's x and then y, so it's 1.67, 0. And then in coordinate form, it's x and y, so it's 0, 2.5. Okay, let's go ahead and plot it then. So 1.67, 0, this is x-intercept, right, because y is 0. And then this is y-intercept because x is 0. So this is 1, 2. So let's say 1.67 is here somewhere. And then 2.5, let's say this is 1, 2, 3. So let's say 2.5 is here somewhere. So this is my y-intercept and this is my x-intercept. And I'm just going to go ahead and connect those 2 points. And this is the graph of my equation. And we should label our points. It's always good practice to label your points. This is 2.5. Oh, it looks like 2 times 5. So this is 2.5 and this is 1.67. 67. So that's that bit. Let's do one more before we move on. So let's graph. I can never think of numbers. Equals 14. Let's do 28. Okay, so 4x plus, let's make it 2y. 4x plus 2y equals 28, and we want to graph it, right? So all we need to find again is x-intercept and y-intercept. Okay, so at x-intercept, we know that y is equal to 0. So it's going to be 4x plus 2. We're not going to write y because y is 0. This is already 0. So we know that 4x is equal to 28. And if we divide both sides by 4, then x is equal to 7. If we put this in coordinate form, which is x and y, then it's 7, 0. Same thing with y-intercept. At my y-intercept, x is equal to 0. So it's going to be 4. I'm not going to write x because x is now equal to 0. 4 times 0 is 0. We don't need that bit. So 2y is 28. If I divide both sides by 2, for a second there I thought I wasn't recording. Y is going to be equal to 14. And if I put this in coordinate form, it's 0, 14. Now that we have both of them, we can just go ahead and graph it. So I'm actually going to make this a bit better. Ooh, look at me, I drew a straight line. Never thought the day would come. So it's going to be 14 on the y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yay! And then on the x is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 is here and 14 is here. So we're just going to go ahead and connect those 2 points. And this is, ooh, my line is almost straight. And this is the equation or the graph of my equation. Okay, I'm going to do one more just to make sure we're all on the same page, right? Before I move on to the equation bit. So let's graph numbers. 3x minus 4y equals 12. I'm actually making these numbers easy for myself because I'm making them all it was divided by 12. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Okay, so 3x minus 4y is equal to 12. So we want to graph it, so we just need x-intercept and y-intercept. So y has to be equal to 0 for x-intercept, so it's going to be 3x minus 4. We're not writing y because y is equal to 0, so we don't need this bit. So 3x is just equal to 12, so my x is, if I divide both sides by 3, my x is 4. Now if I put this in coordinate form, it's always x and then y. If we do y-intercept, we know that at y-intercept, x is equal to 0. So I'm not going to write x because I know that x is now 0. So it's negative 4y equals 12. And then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. So my y is negative 3. And if I put this in ordered pair, it's going to be x and then y. So let's go ahead and graph it. Let me see if I can get a straight line. You can do this, you can do this. Nope. Okay. And then something like that. So we need 3 on the y, but the negative, and we need 4 on the x. Okay, so this is 4 and this is negative 3. So this is negative 3 and this is 4. And then I'm just going to go ahead and connect them. And this is the graph of my equation. Okay, so if you remember, I said that there's mainly 2 things that I want to talk about today, or in this video. I want to talk about graphing linear functions, and I want to talk about how you get the equation of a linear function. Now that we understand
how to graph linear functions, hopefully. Now we can tackle getting the equation of a linear function. So okay, let's say that we have so the question is, what is the equation of the line with slope of 4 that passes through the point (1, -2). So this is the question. What is the equation of the line with slope of 4 and it passes through the point 1, -2? So we're just gonna try to get the equation of the line in slope-intercept forms. There's so many forms that we can use, but I'm just gonna only talk about slope-intercept form in this video because it's the most straightforward. So the slope-intercept form looks like this: y equals mx plus b. Let me talk about what each thing stands for. So m in your slope-intercept form stands for slope, hence why it's called slope-intercept form. What do you think b stands for? Yes, if you guessed it, it stands for intercept. But which intercept? Because we have two intercepts. Sometimes I feel like Dora, because I'm like asking questions and then no one is answering. Okay, so then for the intercept, which intercept is this? Because we have two intercepts. We have y-intercept and we have x-intercept. B represents y-intercept. So if you have m and you have b, you essentially have your equation. Because let me say that m was equal to 1 and b was equal to 5. I essentially have my equation because I know what m is and I know what b is, right? So I'm just gonna, instead of writing m, I'm gonna write 1, and instead of writing b, I'm gonna write 5. So I know the equation of my line essentially. So that tells us that all we need to do when we're asked to find the equation of a line is to just find m and find b. And if you have m and you have b, congrats, you have the equation. So then how do we find m? Or is it given to us? If we're told that the slope is 4 and m is slope, what is m? Yes, you're correct. M is 4. Dora, literally. Okay, so then how do we find b? Are we lucky and is b given to us? No, we're not lucky. We're never lucky twice in a row in math. It's always once. So we're given slope, and now we need to find the y-intercept. So how do I find the y-intercept? What am I given? I'm given slope, but I'm also given something else. I'm given point, right? And if we remember what I said earlier, whenever you're given a point, it's always x in y. So we're given some x value, we're given some y value, and we're given some m. Let's go back here. Does that sound familiar? We have y, we have m, we have x, and all we need to find is this pesky p. Is that easy to find if you have everything else except b? Yes, it is easy to find. So let's go ahead and find it. So y equals mx plus b, right? We know what y is. Maybe I should write it over here. Y is -2 from this point, and x is equal to 1 also from this point. So instead of y, I'm going to put -2. Instead of m, I'm going to put 4. And instead of x, it's going to be 1. -2 is 4 times 1, which is 4, and that's added to b. Now I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides of my equation. So -6 is equal to b, or you can say b is equal to -6. Woohoo! Now we have m and we have b. But the question is not asking you for m and b, it's asking you for the equation of the line. So we can just go back to the slope-intercept form, which looks like this. And then we can just plug in m and b. So now it's going to be y equals x plus Actually, it's minus. I lied. Okay, so it's gonna be, what's my m? 4x. And what's my b? 6. Well, it's -6, that's why I put minus. So yeah, y is equal to 4x minus 6. And this is the equation of my line. Okay, let's do another problem. Okay, so what's the equation of the line with a slope of -2 that passes through the point -1, -2? I could make this -3, so it's a bit interesting. Okay, let's make it -3. So this is -3. Let me make it obvious it's -3, because I don't think it's obvious. Okay, this is -3. Okay, so we want to find the equation of the line. If you're trying to find the equation of the line, just use slope-intercept form, which is mx plus b. If we're using slope-intercept form, then I need to know m and I need to know b. Thankfully, my question is very nice and it already gives me m. It tells me that m is -2. It doesn't give me b, but it does give me some points that might help me with b, right? So it gives me some x value and some y value. So now all I need to do is find b. Instead of y, I'm going to put -3. Instead of m, I'm going to put -2. And instead of x, I'm going to put -1. And I'm going to add all of that to b. Now -2 times -1 is 2. And now I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides of my equation. So my b is equal to -5. Now I have m, I have b also. So I have both of this. So then I have my equation. But instead of m, I'm going to put -2. And instead of b, I'm going to put -5. And this is the equation of my line. Okay, let's do another problem. So let's say the problem says, what's the equation of the line? What's the equation of the line that passes through the points 1, -2, and 3, -5? Okay, what's the equation of the line that passes through these points? Again, if we're trying to find equation of the line, we just use slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, right? Okay, so there's only two things that we need for equation of a line. We need slope and we need y-intercept. Is slope given to us? Oh no, it's not given to us. But we can find it because we know that slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I talked about that earlier. And we're given a bunch of x and y values, right? I'm given 2 x values. This is one x value and this is another x value. So those are 2 x values, right? And I'm also given 2 y values. This is one y and this is another y. It doesn't really matter which one I call 1 or which one I call 2. I could call this one's 1 and I could call this one 2. Or I could call this one 2 and I could call this one 1. Don't really matter. So I'm going to call this one's my 1s and I'm going to call this one's my 2s. Does that sound good? So now we're going to go ahead and plug it in here. So my y2 is -5 and my y1 is -2. My x2 is 3 and my x1 is 1. So it's -5 minus, what's my y1? -2. What's my x2? 3 minus, what's my x1? 1. -5 minus times minus is plus, and then 3 minus 1 is 2. Now -5 plus 2 is -3 over 2, which is, we can leave it as a fraction. So now we have m, and we remember how to find b because we did it in the previous videos when we're solving for b. All we need to do is just plug in y, plug in m, plug in x, and then we can find b. Since we have two sets of x and y, I can just choose one set. I'm going to go ahead and choose this pair. So then it's going to be y equals this, and x equals this. So my y is -2, my m is -3/2, and my x is 1. I'm going to add that to b. 1 times -3/2 would just stay as -3/2. So this is -2 equals -3/2 plus b. Now I'm going to add 3/2 to both sides of my equation. So my b is going to be -2 plus 3/2. Okay, if you haven't watched our video on addition and subtraction of fractions, you should definitely watch it because we talk about the butterfly method, which is like a really quick way of adding and subtracting fractions. Okay, so then b would just be, I'm using the butterfly method here, so it's going to be -4 plus 3/2, which is going to be -1/2. So my b is -1/2 and my m is -3/2. So then the equation is going to be y equals, what's my m? I'm going to use a different color here. So it's going to be y equals, what's my m? -3/2x plus my b, which is -1/2. So this is the equation of my line. Okay, let's do one more problem. Okay, what's the equation of the line that passes through points -1, -2, and 2, -3? So it's the same thing. Again, we're finding the equation. So we start with our slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So all we need in order to find the equation is m and b. This question does not give us m, but we know how to find m using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're given two sets of y and x. So this is my x and this is another x. I'm gonna call this one 1 this time around so you can see that it doesn't matter which one you call x, which one you call 1 and which one you call 2. Since I'm calling this one 2, this is also 2, right? And then this is y1. Okay, so now let me just write them out. y2 is, let me move it higher. So y2 is equal to -2 and y1 is equal to -3 and x2 is equal to -1 and x1 is equal to 2. Is that true? So y2 is -2, y1 is -3, x2 is -1, and x1 is 2. That is correct. So we're going to go ahead and plug it in here. So it's going to be -2 minus y1, which is -3. We're going to divide that by x2, which is -1, minus x1, which is 2. So it's y2, which is -2. I'm going to subtract it from y1, which is -3. And then I'm going to divide it by x2, which is -1, minus x1, which is 2. Negative times negative is positive, so it's -2/3. And -1 minus 2 is -3. 3 minus 2 is 1, so it's just -1/3. So that's m, and now we need to find b. We can just choose any of our points, so I'm going to choose these points for my y and x. So y equals mx plus b, but instead of y, let me use a different color. So y equals mx plus b, but instead of y, we're going to write -2 equals m, which is -1/3, x, which is -2, plus b. Okay, again, if you're not sure how to multiply fractions, we have a video on fractions which talks about multiplying fractions, so I would highly recommend you to just pause this video, go watch that video, and then come back. Okay, so -2 is going to be equal to if we multiply this, negative times negative is positive, so it's 2 over 3 times 1, which is 3 plus b. I'm going to go ahead and make this over 1. So I'm going to subtract 2/3 from both sides of my equation. So b is negative 2 over 1 minus 2 over 3, which means my b is negative 2 times 3, 6, minus 2 over 3, which means b is negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8 over 3. So then the equation of my line is going to be y equals m, which is this, negative 1/3, x minus b, which is this, so negative 8 over 3. So this is the equation of my line. Sweet.
Okay, if you made it this far, you're a real one. So if you want to go ahead and put a thumbs up emoji in the comment section so I know that you made it this far. Okay, also, do you like our videos? Because it helps our channel to reach more students that are maybe struggling with algebra or would benefit from our explanations. Also, this is only the first video in our algebra series. We're literally going to go through algebra, and we're going to have a whole series going through all the fundamental topics that is in algebra. So if you haven't already, do subscribe so that you get notified whenever we have new videos updated. We always have videos updated on Sundays and Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.